Welcome back. It is the HewCast podcast with me, Vanessa, and today I have no guests at all, and which is unfortunate. But that doesn't mean that we can't have a good conversation. And I've got quite a few things coming up in the pipeline, so watch out. I've got 3 or 4 guests coming in over the next few weeks or so. So hopefully we'll get some engaging and really good conversations going. So what I wanted to talk about today, I've got my notes here, I'm never gonna lie to you, is about something which I think we know of it, but we don't talk about it, especially within business and in a corporate setting. And it is might touch a few nerves, but if without this conversation, we're not going to get to a place of change and to a place where it's acceptable um, to be who you are. And my topic for today is about whitewashing. And for those of you that don't know what whitewashing is, that is basically where a person completely eradicates their culture, their name, the way they look, the way they dress, the way they talk, the way they act, which is natural to them, to align it to a more plain, um, a more plain and more corporately acceptable way of working. Now, it's different from being professional, because being professional doesn't mean that you have to eradicate your entire existence and the way you work and the way you talk and the way you act. So with whitewashing, I'll give you an example of where it kind of starts. So with a lot of the stereotypes that you might get in business, why people might be reluctant to hire someone is because of their cultural background or their stereotype. So someone might change their name, for example, if they've got a maiden, maybe tribal name, you know, they will change it to their middle name, which is a more English name, like Louise, for example. Take my middle name, for example. Someone might change their name to Louise just so they can get a job interview, so that on the paper, someone doesn't discriminate against them for the name, because already, as soon as, if you're a recruiter, as soon as you see their name, you already have an assumption about them, and there is that unconscious bias of, oh my god, they're from here, and we all know it's wrong, but it still happens. So a lot of the time people have had to adjust and acclimatize to these kind of discriminations and try to make it beneficial for them. So they will change their name, change the way they speak, change the way they act. And of course, in your mind, you're probably thinking that is so unacceptable. But unfortunately, years of systemic, uh, just years of absolute discrimination, and and this is from all cultures. This is not just a black thing. This happens in Asian cultures. I've spoken to some Asian business owners who have gone through this, and it happens all around. So it is very prevalent. And if you are a business owner, you're probably thinking, well, what examples is this happening in? And I can give you some great examples, and things that I've had to do as an apprentice, even at a young age. From my family, my granddad, he used to work for a place called Cannon Rubber, and he was, a very typical Jamaican. But if you caught my granddad on the phone and he was talking to an operator or customer service, he'll be like, oh, hi, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. And you can tell he went straight into the British voice. But when he talks to me, it is very much a traditional Jamaican, yeah, you don't understand. And it is kind of like, well, if you can talk like that, why do you talk like that all the time? But as I got older, I realized that was not him. He was putting on a persona to get things done. So it's kind of passed down, because my dad, he still does that as well. When he's on the phone, he speaks to someone and he's like, all right, mate, and like, and you're like, what? That's not you. Like, that's crazy. Like, why would you have that kind of voice when that's not you? That's not you being you. But how he can get people to do what he needs to do and relate to people, he had to change his persona, change his voice. And it's kind of sad that we have to do that in order to actually get somewhere in life. And it's just, that is where the whitewashing comes in. You're changing your voice to please someone else. And unfortunately, now it's passed down to me. When I was working as an apprentice and I'm on the phones to the customers, automatically my voice, if you heard my name, you'd automatically think that Vanessa is probably you know, a middle class white lady living in the suburbs or something like that, which isn't the case. I'm very much a black woman in business. So, but with my voice and with my name, that's what's kind of made it acceptable, made it, you know, oh, okay, I'll help you. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be based on merit and based on my own abilities and talents, or it should be based on what I've achieved as a person, not because of my skin or, you know, the way I look. So a lot of that happens, and it's become almost normal to do that. And I think in my last 3 or 4 roles and the last maybe about 5 years, I've kind of realized that I can be me and still be a business owner, you know, a business manager, managing things on my own efforts, my own merit, because I listen, because I'm approachable, I'm a people person. So that kind of idea of whitewashing has diminished in my life, but in some other people's world, it's very much a prevalent figure in how they get their jobs, because they have to tone themselves down in order to get a job or get things done. So it's just so disappointing to see that that's still going on. So in terms of solutionizing, I think it's going to take a long time. We already have unconscious bias and new ways of recruiting, in terms of, you know, anonymizing applicants and stuff like that. But you can still discriminate, and you can still understand or know who's behind that CV through not just experience, but also from what words they say, how long ago things have happened. You could already get that negative discrimination about age and all sorts. So I think when it comes to whitewashing, we really need to sort it out over here in Britain. And from a business perspective, I think that we are conscious of it, but we don't know how to handle it. And I think with a lot more conversation and a lot more solutionizing, we can get to that place. And I don't think it's a quick fix. It will probably take a few iterations, but I do feel that it's not the end of the road when it comes to that. So I think today's going to be a quick podcast because it's just me. So yeah, no, it's definitely a proper issue. Please contact me, leave comments. How has whitewashing affected you and your business, and what kind of solutions have you put in place to try and allow people to feel accepted as themselves? Because with whitewashing, you're taking away a culture. So what a culture or a religion, or, you know, people are changing to make sure that they fit in rather than fitting in for being them. So it's not really true. um, a true fit. So I think it'll be good to find out from you guys how that has affected you, and what have you done to almost eradicate whitewashing. One of the things about religion and culture is that it's something that you cannot deny, like, at all. You can't just completely eradicate someone's culture and someone's religion. It's just one of those things that you have to accept. And right now, diversity inclusion is a massive agenda on a lot of people's lips, but actually the true test of whether it works or not is by action. So it would be good to know what actions are being taken, and also it would be good to know how you've included culture in your business and how you work. So for me, with Hewitt support, the culture I'm trying to breed, because it's a supportive function and it's a service, my marketing kind of tailors to the kind of culture that I want to breed within not only my business, but also what I want to attract. It's partnering businesses and making sure that businesses are, willing to just improve and look at diversity and inclusion, and making sure that their strategic plans directly and indirectly include diversity inclusion as their agenda. Because to achieve real diversity and inclusion, in my mind, it should be naturally embedded in what you do. And the more that we continue to isolate it and move it as a separate agenda, the less likely it becomes the normal. So what I try and tend to do is try and put them together. So for any strategic planning or business planning that I'm doing, I would add diversity and inclusion into that. So marketing within Hewitt support, I always try to make sure that no matter what we do, it has diversity and inclusion included for all the clients. But it would be really good to see other businesses embrace diversity and inclusion and embrace it as part of their strategic planning, that they always have that on their agenda anyway. So it's always consciously there, but it's not separated. It's aligned to everything that they're doing. And I think that's why a lot of people who now only just realize that they need it separately on their agenda, because they haven't included it ever at all. So we do have a lot of work to be done as an industry as a whole, but I am delighted to see a lot of progress and a lot of thoughtfulness. And when we look at diversity inclusion, we are looking at all the protected characteristics. So it's not just about race, and it's not just about religion. It's about equal opportunities across the board, whether you are disabled or enabled. I mean, I'm more happy for the positive words. So, to enable people to get jobs regardless of whether they declare themselves disabled or not. Sexual orientation, in my mind, it shouldn't care who you like or who you fall for. I don't feel we should really discriminate at all with that. I think if it has no bearing on how they work, for example, if they are working in an office and the office is just to do with finance, what does it matter if someone is gay, straight, trans, bisexual, queer, you name it, as long as they can do the role and that the role is being fulfilled appropriately, then why should we care about that? if it's going to be a tick box exercise, there's no point. You should be unconsciously thinking, right, this person's great for the role, they've done this, they've demonstrated that, let's go for it. Oh, but also within that, you need to think about, okay, if someone hasn't got all of these but can be trained into, and this is where some positive discrimination works, because if you are hiring someone for a role, and let's be honest, from particular backgrounds, you have certain experiences. Not everyone went to university, not everyone went to college, but they've got the experience and they've got the transferable skills. This is where you need to think as an organization, are you a coaching organization, or you're an organization that just wants people to do a job and go home, or do you want longevity? Because if you're going to invest in people coming into your role, you might actually want to consider people who don't have 100% every bullet point on your person spec. You might say, okay, they have the values and the qualities and the cultural ethics of my business and they all align. They have had a similar role, but they just haven't done this and that. And actually, they're minor in comparison, but my main points are that they can actually do the role, all the extra stuff. Actually, I can develop them into that role and coach them. So there's options there. And I don't think a lot of business owners have been able to distinguish that when they're doing their shortlisting, because it's hard. I understand everyone just wants the perfect person who can do the job, but I'm sorry, we're all human. There's no perfect person. And it was one of those things where you have to decide what type of organization you are. And for me, as a person who started as an apprentice, I've learned all that I know on the job whilst working, and obviously doing, qualifications on the side, but, not degree qualifications, but vocational qualifications to just get that theoretical understanding to what I'm doing, but not too much to overload me, because I'm not an academic. I think in my last podcast, Pauline is definitely the academic, but for me, I'm a doer. So I like to do, doesn't mean that being a doer, I'm not strategic thinking. Can't even say the word, but I'm not to say that I'm not strategic in my thinking, but I am very much a person who learns through experience, and also learns by listening to others. And so I do a lot of listening to podcasts and listening to people's experiences. And actually, there's that old saying of, wise people learn from the experience of others, and I try to embody that. I try to listen and learn from others, because you don't want to make the same mistakes as them. You want to better that and, learn from your own mistakes, but also the mistakes of others, to build and start breeding a better understanding of the line of work you do. So I 100% believe that, when you're marketing your business and when you're thinking about your business's culture, these points about diversity, inclusion, and thinking about, things like whitewashing, what is your stance on it? And actually, you don't need to write it down in paper for, for the sake of, I am against whitewashing. I mean, obviously, for most people, you would be against it. But actually, what is your approach to it? Like, without saying what the problem is, what's your approach to it? And how are you ensuring that people don't have to change their name, eradicate their religion and culture, or change their voice, and remove all trace of their identity? What are you doing to encourage that identity? And one of the great things where I've worked, where this has really, really, really been good, it was in the NHS. And as a service, we had representatives in each, religion, culture, and they'll be responsible for doing events for their culture. So whether it's Eid, Diwali, whether it's Hanukkah, um, whatever celebration, Easter for Christianity, etc., they automatically will organize the event. We would promote it for a few weeks, get people on board, and actually people from other cultures join in the celebrations. So, and also get them to talk about, some significant events within that culture. So everyone kind of gets an understanding. And this really helped because when people were working from home, or it was a particular time in the month and they're fasting, people were extremely conscious of it. And therefore, when they're talking to people, they're, asking, how's it going? They're not being very patronizing, but they're being very supportive and saying, you know what, clock off for the day, especially when it's extremely hot days. A lot of managers were like, well, do what you can during these hours and then clock off. And we can work out the rest of the hours and the work together, and make some alternative arrangements, because it helped them, fulfill their religious, requirements while they're fasting. But also it made them know that actually we respect, your cultural events, your religious events, sorry. And it just helped people stay at work, because they know that they did the work, they have, religious obligations that shouldn't hinder them from doing what they need to do, but also working. And that was really, really nice. And the Diwali celebrations was amazing. They brought in I say costumes, it's religious clothing. They brought in people to, do a little bit of dances and music, and brought in food like very traditional Indian sweets, which were amazing, of course. And they did a lot. And it was great turnout of people from all backgrounds, and we all got understanding of Hinduism, and understanding the Hindi culture behind it as well. It was great. So I recommend, it wasn't like, oh, we assigned people, this person, this person, this person. They volunteered and say, look, we're happy to represent, and put on any events. What do you think? And obviously, I mean, from a business manager perspective, I'm like, great, you're volunteering. One, that's great for engagement for the team, as that means you're proactively involved in what's going on. But also, B, is really good to encourage learning, encourage that improvement of understanding our working environments, and how the different perspectives within our working environments as well, and the backgrounds of where people are coming from, because then you can kind of see where their thinking is from, and what they're doing, and why they do it certain ways, and you kind of start to understand. So that's when you start breeding this culture of acceptance, and this culture of, actually, you are who you are, but as long as you're doing the work, and we're respecting each other, it doesn't matter where you're from. And I think whitewashing has caused a lot of people, especially in the older generation, to lose their culture, and to lose their perspective, and lose them, because there is all these theories that about, the best working environment is where you have different perspectives and different personality traits. And unfortunately, we're not there yet, where leaders are looking at the personality traits on their board and thinking, what type of person do I need in order for this go from a good, operational strategic board to an excellent one. And it's having that diversity of speech, of perspective and cultures, because that way you can address as many possible scenarios and perspectives as possible, and you can consider them, on its own merit. And I think that's where we're really working towards. And it's not just, someone from a BAME background. It's no, someone with a different perspective than what we've got. And I think that's where it should be pitched. It should be, we're looking for people who have perspectives on X, Y, and Z, and who can help us address our perspectives on X, Y, and Z. And I think that's where you're going to start to see an actual increase in board productivity, in the terms of the decisions, the types of decisions, how they're being made. It's going to be so much more richer. And in terms of, business planning and direction, it's going to be a very innovative and diverse way of strategic planning, because you've got the ingredients for a great board. And not everyone is just yes men and saying the same thing. It's actually, okay, here's this perspective, that perspective. Maybe we could address both perspectives and actually put them in one. Or actually, we never thought about it like this. Let's explore that possibility. And I think that's where we are. The only way we're going to get that change is by having that diverse range of voice in the boards. And I think with whitewashing, that will slowly eradicate once we see the change. People feel a lot more comfortable in their skin and in their culture, even at work. And I think you will get a lot more people be a lot more loyal and more happy. Staff survey satisfaction on the staff survey will increase, because you're considering everyone and not leaving people out. So for me, I think that we have got a long way, but I think we'll make it. Yeah, I kind of addressed everything I wanted to say, if I'm honest with you. Lastly, I just wanted to say, for the future of HewCast, there is a lot of people coming forward, just trying to align dates. So that's why it's been a bit difficult. I'm going to try every week, if not every 2 weeks, to upload content for HewCast. But on YouTube, under Hewitt Support, I will be uploading a lot around what we do, the services, and also to talk a bit more about my journey and how I've got to this place, and a few hints and tips along the way about business and different aspects. And I've got a lot of things I can say and a lot of content to make, so definitely stay tuned for that. Please like and subscribe. Please comment where you can. I'm always open for feedback, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from you guys soon. Take care.